Hey guys, and welcome to my husband's garage. I told you in last Tuesday's video, I think it was, when I showed you about the substrate supports, that we were working on a stand for that aquarium. Now, as you can probably tell, my husband's like a ferret. He collects anything shiny. This is my husband, Chris, and I'm really lucky that he is a pretty gifted welder and fabricator. In fact, he made me all of my aquarium racks in the basement, multitudes of cool found object, furniture, art pieces, and that's sort of the look we're going with here, because this tank will be going in my living room, and I have some really quirky, cool furniture in there that he's made for me out of various metal bits, leftover wood, and lots of repurposed cool stuff. So these are from an industrial paper shredder, right, Chris?
Yep.
And they're made out of steel, and we just think that they're kind of cool looking. And if we're gonna have something in our living room, I would rather it look cool than just a clunky wooden box. So the other thing, the thing that gave us the idea is Chris found this really neat thing. What is that?
Sprocket.
What's it a sprocket from?
From a rotary feeder.
A rotary feeder at the power plant?
Yep.
So that's what this is, and I thought it would make a really cool base, or the shelf part, to hold the aquarium with those as the legs. So it is absolutely freaking freezing today, so I'm not gonna stand out here the whole time while he welds all this together, but it's gonna have 3 legs. This is the third. And then we're gonna run pipe behind it to make a tripod, essentially, to hold this. Now this is gonna be extremely, extremely heavy, so we'll have to put some feet on it with padding, and I'll show you guys what it looks like when it's done. We're going for the rustic industrial chic. So stay tuned and I'll show you some more. So one of the unique obstacles of sort of making these found art sculptural pieces be functional is making them actually functional. And in my fish room, Chris made me my stands, and he made leveling feet. And we kind of want to do the same thing with the legs here. Now these aren't tall enough on their own to be the legs of the stand, so Chris has cut some pipe, and there will be pipe underneath and on top to get the stand to the height that we want. And then in the bottom leg we'll place this screw, and then put a nut in the end of the pipe and another nut at the other end of the screw, and then we can adjust it up and down to make it perfectly level. So this will be inside that pipe, and by using a wrench we can turn the screw to tweak the stand so it sits perfectly level. Like that. And I think it'll also look really cool because these paper shredder parts will be suspended on legs, and I think it'll just make for a really cool effect. So he's going to clean this up and then weld the nut into the end of the pipe so that we can get the legs started. Now you'll notice for the most part my husband is much more safety conscious than I am myself. He's wearing gloves, he's got on safety glasses, and he has an ear protection. So he's just sledged the bolt, or the nut rather, into the pipe, and is fitting it to make sure that it's straight. And then this is a little TIG process shoe or lunchbox welder, they call it. Just a little portable multi-process machine that we've had for quite a while. We have a lot of welders. This one probably has the most broad spectrum application. What do they cost now, Chris?
About $1,000.
It's about $1,000, and if you know how to weld, this tool is invaluable. You can fix all kinds of stuff, you can make all kinds of stuff, and it's a really good investment, and it's really not that challenging to learn. Chris teaches people all the time.
Before we're worried about.
So one of the reasons we like metal better than wood is that if you accidentally cut off too much, or if it's slightly imperfect, you can add more metal to make it perfect. Whereas with carpentry, you know, they say measure a million times, cut once. With metal, it's like, oh, I can just put that back. So it's good for the impulsive soul. So this is the Miller TIG machine. And I'm gonna have Chris tell you what the settings are. He wraps it with this braided copper thing he found in order to increase the contact points.
Yeah, this is TIG welding. It's one of the processes of welding. If you know any old guys, a lot of times they'll call it heliarc. It's not called heliarc anymore because you don't use helium to do it. It's essentially using a tungsten rod that comes off of this, which is called a torch. There's a little piece of tungsten in here that's sharpened up to a point. The electricity and the gases, the shielding gas, travel through this hose and come out of the end here, and it shields the arc to prevent oxidation while you're welding. This is filler rod. This is basically the same type of metal as your parent metal that you're going to be welding to, so you're filling it with the same type or a compatible type of metal.
And that's so that it forms a good bond and doesn't break.
Yep. There's numerous different rods for different applications. There's aluminum. There's this here is a bronze rod you can use for sort of like a brazing process for joining brass to steel. There's stainless rods. I mean, it goes on and on and on. And a lot of really smart guys make it, and I just know which ones to use for what I'm welding.
So he's turning on the gas. We're definitely in a well-ventilated area. It is freaking freezing out here. I'm gonna step away because I don't have a hood. Mine broke. So you're just attaching the ground?
Yep.
Which again is that braided copper thing. And that's what's attached to the machine that provides the current.
Dark.
So while I was packing fish today, my husband was out here continuing to work on the stand, and he's just welded the pipes to the paper shredder rollers and attached it to the tabletop. And he's going to be stick welding further, and then there's a brass grate that we're doing as an inset that he's going to be welding as well. Can you tell me why you chose to stick weld instead of TIG this?
This is pretty thick steel, the sprocket, and the pipe is also pretty thick.
So it's about getting a thicker connection than you get with the smaller TIG rod?
It's quicker, and it's on the bottom side of the sprocket, so it doesn't have to be as pretty.
Okay.
And yeah, I can use a thicker rod. Which the stick rod is one step up from the TIG rod that I was using. And,
great.
Yeah,
Thanks.
quicker. So
what will come next is finishing to clean up all the metal. as well as the final welding on the top here. And then we're gonna paint the top and the pipe a dark metallic finish, and then clean up the shredders and clear coat those so that they'll stay really bright. And then there will be a little shelf added to the bottom. So I'll show you that, guys, some of that when it's progressed a bit more. So my house is tiny, and what this means is we have like one little closet for all of us to share in the main living area of our house. And this room is really it as far as common area goes, other than the dining room and kitchen, which are combined. Now that gives me some really unique obstacles when I'm trying to make my hobby take over the house or have it integrate in. And one of the ways that we've decided to do that is to sort of integrate our quirky style into the stands. You know, I want my stands to be more than just a box to support my tank. I like them to sort of work with other elements in the room. You know, the older I get, the less I like stuff, the less I want stuff around, and the more I just want to be able to enjoy the things I enjoy, my family, my pets, and my fish. So we take a very minimalist approach in our house, and we're in the process of replacing furniture we've had for 20 years with stuff that my husband makes because he's really talented, and I think it's pretty awesome. And I'll show you guys my coat rack in a second, which is one of the first things he made for me. And this stand was meant to match that. And as we upgrade TV stands and desks and couches and everything else, it'll all end up working together. So the goal for this stand was for it to have that industrial chic look. And this is my Christmas present, and I have wanted a stand like this for a while. Right now I'm using it as a plant stand because honestly, with this Christmas tree up, I can't cope with setting up another tank up here. Once we take the Christmas tree down and all the presents are out of here and life is back to normal, then I'll set up the tank. So that'll be, you know, in the new year sometime, probably at the latest by spring, but I'll keep you guys up to date on that. So for now, I have this beautiful bowl that my friend Vito made for me and just some of my plants. Now, the nice thing about spring as well is once spring hits, I can move all my plants outside. This is actually the one from my summer tubbing that was hanging there. And this can just be fish tank space again. But he designed it to hold my plants in the meantime. You know, I'm not a girl that really wants much. I don't like stuff, I don't want things. So getting a gift like this and having something like this made for me is especially awesome because it's something I will use and keep forever. And it has a lot of details that really have my style in mind. And I'd like to show you guys a little bit closer the finished product. So let's take a look. So if you guys remember correctly, this top surface was that really rusty thing that was sitting out in my front yard that I was sort of inspired by. And my husband found this awesome brass grate that fit almost perfectly with just a little bit of trimming of that sprocket. And when we go to put a fish tank on it, I will cut a piece of cork to go underneath the aquarium to provide all that support. But we didn't want to leave the center open because the tank I'm going to be using is a rimless tank, so it needs support everywhere. So that grid combined with the cork will make things work out just fine. And it's a small volume tank. I probably wouldn't have had to worry about it, but I have hardwood floors and I really don't want even, 12 gallons of water hitting the floor. You can see the paper shredder legs came out really cool. Everything's much more finished now, and we actually ended up changing the adjustable feet into those small gears, and everything came out perfectly level. He just had to turn one of the gears a tiny bit to make the tank level. And I had him put on that little detail shelf on the bottom specifically for holding one of my plants. All in all, I think this thing came out really cool and I'm super stoked about it. I definitely think it's going to be a conversation piece, and it came out super polished despite being made of a bunch of junk we found in the trash. And I really think that's the message here. Like, you can repurpose many things to make them absolutely gorgeous with just a little bit of elbow grease. But you can see by him doing those pipe inset feet to be able to level, it came out perfectly level. And I'm just really excited about this project and can't wait for the weather to get better so that I can get cracking on it. So just to show you guys real quick what the inspiration for that tank stand was, is this is my found object coat rack. And you can see a lot of matching elements in this, which is what makes it all tie together. And again, this was junk that he found at, you know, in the scrap pile. So I think it's pretty awesome to repurpose it into something that's functional and beautiful. And lastly, the other thing that I really liked about this project is that even if I decided, you know, I don't want a living room tank anymore, or 2 living room tanks anymore, and, you know, I'm just too busy to properly maintain them, I feel like this aquarium stand can continue to be useful either as the plant holder or as a side table, because it's just that awesome. Anyway, I hope you found this sort of interesting. Definitely not an interior designer, but I think stuff like this has a tactile appeal, and to me is just absolutely my aesthetic. Sort of that rough edge with a polished finish, if you will. Anyway, thanks for watching. Make sure you stop by my Facebook as well as my website, MsJinx.com, where you can find my upcoming speaking engagements, my current stock list, and information on all things nano. As always, let me know what you think. Give me any comments, suggestions, or questions below. And let me know what your favorite DIY project has been. I'm so excited about the holidays. Even my fish tanks got decorated. So you can see this little nano's coming in awesome. And I just thought it would be fun to take some old glass vintage garland, cut it apart, and decorate the part of the driftwood. I hope you guys have a wonderful holiday season.